Welcome to this new moon in Libra. I don't even think I ever went back and fixed it last time, but I called the full moon a Libra full moon. I think I just like saying that. It was a full moon in Pisces. We finally made it back round to a Libra moon again, which of course makes me feel at home because my astrological moon is in Libra. That's the way it was when I was born, and now everything feels as it should be to have the moon like this. So this is a new moon, which is a good time to start things, to feel the beginnings. This is also a Jewish New Year. And at least in the Northern Hemisphere here, this is a time of harvest. It's a time to see what the year brought us. What do we have to work with as we move into these cooler months? In Maine, there's a real feeling of, are we going to make it through the winter? Do we have enough wood? Do we have enough food? I don't have any animals that require hay, but it's also that feeling of gathering up resources to prepare for hard times. And I think that might be appropriate now, not just our resources, food and water and fuel, but our spiritual resources to deal with what's in front of us and what's coming our way. How do we make sure we have our needs met while things get dark and cold around us? If you step outside during a new moon, you will notice how dark it is outside without the moonlight and how many stars you can see if you don't have light pollution. And that is poignant to me right now, this feeling of a moment where it's dark enough that you can see the stars beyond. You can see some light that's being transmitted from very, very far away. And it's harder to see those stars during a full moon, as you know, if you've been observing this, if you go out and watch your night sky. And so these new moons give us the opportunity to have that quietness, this close quietness that allows us to receive light. Let's just use this and not try to get symbolic. But we're seeing more light from far away because we're not being blinded by the closer light. And I think that might be really the best little nugget of wisdom for this moment now. This is a moment to take a long glance and to look beyond the turmoil that might be going on in your personal life right now and in the political life. That's this kind of global turmoil that's happening. And I don't mean to look away from that. I'm just saying, what's the long picture? How does this fit into the ancient picture of time? And the image I see for this moment now is like a theater. And this is one of my favorite sensations when I go to a theater. It could be a movie. It doesn't have to be live theater, though. It's especially available, the feeling, with live theater, because there's just a little bit more agitation in the air, a little bit more anticipation before a live show. But when everybody's settled into their seats and there's this sort of like murmur, talking all around, and then the lights go down and that quiet hush. And then there's this moment of like adjusting your eyes so everything really goes dark, and then something begins. And that's what this feels like, that hushing moment of darkness, of anticipatory darkness. And I get that feeling at the end of a show too, when the lights go to black. It's such a visceral feeling in my body of, it's like light punctuation. And so we're in this moment of punctuation, this between moment where anything is possible. So, what is going on anyway? Hello and welcome, or maybe welcome back. I am your host, Anne Headley, and this is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway? This is a place that I take some time every 2 weeks to check in on the moon and my intuition. And whether the new moon is new or the full moon is full, I like to share what's coming up for me as an intuitive and as an artist. I use my imagination and intuition to tell a story by surfing the present moment and sharing that with you. Some call this channeling, but my experience is that it's more of a hybrid and possibly a very good way to brainstorm for the future. So the hybrid would be, I don't know where this information's coming from. It seems like it's coming from my imagination. But because I'm an intuitive and I have practice with this, I've had experiences where I am able to perceive information that I couldn't possibly know. Unless intuition is a real thing and there are ways that we have, or feelers that we have available to the world around us that give us information in a way that we don't quite yet know that much about. So that's the hybrid for me, is what is it to imagine and be intuitive at the same time, and to be effectively imagining the world around us to help resolve some conflicts that we're confronted with. So I hope this inspires you to look for your own waves of presence. Ultimately, I hope this becomes an internal revolution that I believe is necessary to usher us into the future collaboration of being here together. I do believe that this is a kind of way of taking responsibility for our thoughts and feelings and how we engage in the world around us. I'm especially interested in my own and others' experiences of spirituality and the question, what are we here for? And what is the meaning of life? I like to throw that in these days because maybe we'll figure it out. I know that one of the answers is love. I say that a lot. But given that, how do we do it? How do we practice the meaning of life being love? And there's 1,000 billion million ways of doing that. I'm a notebook girl. I like to have notebooks. I have many, many, many notebooks. I haven't really actively called myself a writer, but I write a lot. And I love to have many unfilled notebooks around me. I have 3 around me right now. I have a stack that I want to go through later in my room. I will always have one at my bedside. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I remember going on a family trip as a teenager, and I had this little, for lack of a better way of describing it, it wasn't quite a briefcase, but it was a briefcase-like bag that I had filled with, I don't know, some files and some notebooks. I don't even know, but I just knew that if I was going to take this trip with my family, I had to have my little office with me. And I, to this day, don't like going anywhere without a notebook with me, like a little security blanket. I don't know what I think I'm going to figure out by having the notebooks around me, but I can tell you at this point, it's like a pacifier. Like, I know that I'll be all right if I can just have a notebook with me, whether it's drawing, sketching, doodling, writing, taking notes. And it's frustrating because these are not productive notebooks. I'm not like making a living by making notebooks. And I went back through some older notebooks because this seems like a good time of year to look back through stuff. And what is really fascinating to me, and maybe I do know a little bit about why I have these notebooks. They're like dream makers for me. I went back through this notebook and, okay, let me rewind a little bit. The 2 weeks between the full moon and this new moon were huge for me. I had a week in there where I was doing a residency as a dance artist, and we rehearsed and warmed up together, and we created this performance night at the end of this week of residency. And it was, oh gosh, it just reminded me of being in college. But I was the youngest, so this is a 50 plus crowd of lifelong dancers and performers, musicians, singers. So this isn't something that I get to spend my typical days and weeks doing. It was super special for me. And I felt quite on the spot that I needed to perform and have a piece of my own. I mean, that's what I agreed to. And I did. And I went back through this notebook and I forgot that I had written out the piece that I did. I had an outline of it. I mean, I sort of knew I was interested in doing this for a while, this sort of, I don't know if I want to describe the whole thing, but it's a structured improvisation around moving laundry around the stage. And I forgot that I had it all. I had notebook pages written about what this meant to me and what I was going to do. And I guess I just sort of forgot about those notebook pages, but something about them made it easy for me to pull this piece together when it was time for me to work on it and actually put it in front of an audience. So why am I telling you this? It's because this new beginning time has something to do with an intention that gets set and forgotten. And sometimes it's notebooks, sometimes it's thoughts, sometimes it's relationships or relational ideas that happen when we're with other people and certain ideas get sparked. And that sets something, I don't want to say it sets it in motion, but it sets something down as a framework or a foundation that something can be built on it later, and maybe even by other people. So I think there's something about letting individuality as a property that we have to defend, letting some of that go, that we are more connected, creatively connected than we could possibly know. That's what I'm wondering about. This is something that I wrote in one of my notebooks. I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast before. I don't think it even matters. But I want to read this excerpt because it has to do with this moment now for me. Recently, I've begun to feel time is speeding up. Maybe that's me approaching older age. Maybe time really is faster now. But what it does to me is places more importance on the ways I use my focus, my time, and my attention. It's as if everything matters. That feels silly to say out loud. Of course, everything matters. But I don't always act that way. Sometimes I wrote fitter. Is that even a word? I can fitter away some hours, not doing what matters to me, not thinking the thoughts that feel important, searching for someone or something else to do that for me, do the thinking for me. But what if every second counts? What if the way we feel and think is the most important of all? And what if every act has ripple effects so that as I write these words, they're making a difference, really, truly in the fabric of life? And what if really, truly, I understood that as a power and used it? I wonder. Just like the way I believe mending is a way to fix the world spiritually, what if every act, every move had the potential power of a spell? It feels a little overwhelming, but what if it's just the way it is? Every once in a while, we notice that with our consciousness, we're able to tap into something, sort of like putting the moment on speakerphone. Now, as I stack this wood, I do this for the good of all. This soup is meant to nourish the hearts of those who are hungry in every way. This seed is planted in the spirit of growth. Everything is holy. Everything is holy. And a poem, because it's been a while since I read you one of my poems. Jesus Christ, I say to the car under my breath. Everyone is Jesus these days. My childhood Lutheran friend was so worked up over my taking the Lord's name in vain, though I see it as an abundant bestowal, like Oprah. You get a Jesus, you get a Jesus, everything gets a Jesus. Why not anyway? If anything at all is possible, and the world is formed by how we perceive it. Cities, forests of Jesuses, a whole world made up of them, born in irreverence, love everywhere I look. Okay, I'm not necessarily trying to make sense of that. How those two things go together is what I'm saying. That's not a poem anymore. It's back to me. No more poems. I want to say one more thing. Go to whatever our hexagram is and carry on, because, it is Monday, September 22nd, and it's time to get on with it. I deliberately didn't do this yesterday. I just needed that whole new moon it was a solar eclipse too, and it was just a funky day. Maybe it was funky for you too, but this is maybe not the easiest transition into fall that we ever felt. Maybe it's great for you. I don't know. For me, I'm feeling a little lost. But what I want to bring up before we go on is this. I talk about the chakras, and I did that. I don't even know when, but once upon a time on this podcast, I talked about the way I see chakras. I don't even see them. Like, I'm not saying I see them. I walk up to somebody and I see chakras. I just use it as a system I use it really as a creative system. So we're going to go from the root chakra, the base, which is at its heart, I am safe. All is well. And if we can feel safe in our body and where we are finding ourselves located, then we can move into the next place, the second chakra. And of course, we're all doing it all at the same time, but let's just think of this as a way of moving through a creative idea. So first of all, we have to be safe in our body to feel and hold this idea. And then we start getting creative with it. I am feeling something at that second chakra. Something is moving. I'm seeing things from all different directions. So you can almost imagine like a tiny little fetus in a womb, and it is able to move in every which way, and the possibilities are unlimited of what this could be. Well, okay, not unlimited, but we don't know who this being is going to become. And that is a really juicy place of infinite possibilities. At the third chakra, we have some confidence. We have some sense of, it's like personal power. We have a sense that we have a value and that we have a standing and that we can feel that we matter at that third chakra. And the fourth chakra is the heart. I'm loving. I love. I know what it is to feel for myself and others. So that heart chakra is a way of taking the root and the second chakra and the third chakra and enveloping it in goodwill, loving kindness. And that is a way of, that's like a shield of protection in the world. It's like a promise to ourselves and others that we are heart-centered beings. And then at the fifth chakra, this is what's so interesting to me. As we get to the fifth chakra, this is the first time that self-expression, this is the first time that we're saying what we mean based on a rooted, centered, creative, confident, loving self. So we're not called to talk about it until then. I think that's kind of fascinating, right? Like, empty words are really different than fully embodied words. So speaking, being expressive from the throat chakra, the expressiveness also has to do with being able to move easily between inner and outer, knowing what is my inner world, knowing what is my outer world, and letting my speech be the bridge between those two. And then the third eye, I see, I'm connected. I can see my part in the whole. I see how I fit into all of everything. So this, at the third eye, we see how our unique expression of all that is fits and matches into the unique expression of everything else, how we're a puzzle piece seated in the heart of all things. Do I want to say the heart of all things there? We see that we're the same as everything else. We're just matter like everything else, and we're taking up space, and we happen to have this conscious awareness, and that conscious awareness lets us understand that it matters that we're here. And then the crown chakra is I know, not just I see how I fit, but I know that I belong. I know that I belong as part of everything else. I see how I'm divine too. And I think of this as a creative process because I think we kind of pull our creativity up and through all of those cycles and then let it recycle out so that we can start again. So this great kind of like composting. So these fruits move through us and then cycle out. And once it's moved through that process, we don't really care where it goes. It's extra. So we're like like an apple tree dropping the fruit. And the fruit can go to whoever wants to glean it. And since I was going through notebooks, here's this list that includes characteristics of a mature society, because I do think that's sort of where we're moving to. We're trying to mature. And that maybe our current society would value individualism, but a mature society values kinship. It values knowing what is enough. It values having rights and responsibilities. It values understanding one's value to the collective, the community, the whole. This is a society where basic foundational needs are met. It's human-paced. Elders and children are working together. There's generosity, kindness, empathy, acceptance, joy, optimism, playfulness. There is space for grief, creativity, honesty, and hope. There's space for imagination. There's safe places of fearlessness. There's open-mindedness, communication. There's the ability to, and the willingness to listen. And there's space for love. There we go back to the meaning of life again. How does it find its way into all of these different facets of and difficulties of being a human, being alive? It's not like this is easy stuff. So let's see what the I Ching has for us this time. So if you could just take a moment, a breath, and think about what would be helpful for you to know right now. Just for now, just for this week and next week, as we go through this new to full moon, the full moon gaining a weightedness, gaining a fullness. Let's see, what would you have us know? So we get hexagram 13, people in harmony. What are the unique contributions? Where is the common ground? How will your life change if your group expands? People create harmony with one another when they are of like mind and find common cause. They come out of the walls of their villages to forge alliances in the wild country. That is, they seek out common ground where they can meet, beyond the familiar boundaries that usually define the limits of people like us. This means radically expanding the whole idea of who we are. Such fellowship is usually created between people, but it can also take place within an individual, for instance, between inner selves, or between apparently unrelated traditions and ways of knowing. There is harmony when these are brought together in inner conversations to create strong alliances. There is strength and energy in alliance. People in harmony can commit themselves further, take greater risks. They can cross the river and enter new territories. Once there is agreement, it's worthwhile to follow the vision tenaciously with the consistency of a noble one. So that feels lucky. People in harmony, creating alliances where you wouldn't expect to create alliances. That just seems like good advice. It does move to hexagram 12, blocked. I think that's just the times that we're in. So we're creating alliances despite feeling and being blocked. And so if you feel that way, sometimes we have, like, for example, I went to that retreat and then I came home and nothing's changed. I still have to take out the compost and clean the kitty litter and put the garden to bed. And, everything is waiting for me. So it doesn't feel like suddenly, just because I got to have a lovely week feeling my artistry, I still have my regular life to get back to. I didn't suddenly transform into something else. I think, like, how disappointing must it have been, for Cinderella to finally be found by the prince, only to be thrown into another situationship of patriarchal dominance, Okay. So what I'm saying is sometimes we feel blocked. And so when you are feeling blocked, when you've maybe created all kinds of new connections and alliances, and then you're like, oh man, I still have my laundry to do. The question to ask is, what work can you do when nothing is working? Who are you when no one is noticing? I love that one. Who are you when no one's watching? And can you love yourself just as much, just as deeply as the person you are when no one's watching? When no one's watching me, I feel like all I want to do is nothing. And I'm having a hard time accepting that. But I just want to be a human being perceiving the world most of the time. And then sometimes when I'm being watched, I want to seem like I'm something special. But when I'm not being watched, I'm not interested in or practicing being anything special. I'm just interested in being here, being alive, noticing what I notice, resting, snacking, sitting in the sun. I'm going to read the interpretation of hexagram 12, blocked, because I think that feels sort of like the outer world right now. Nothing moves or grows. Communication doesn't happen. Everything is negated and blocked. And this is because of, quote, non-people. That may mean that some people are a consistently, exclusively, and pathologically negative influence and sabotage all attempts at progress. It can also refer to perceiving someone as not quite a real person, explaining their behavior with labels and stereotypes rather than seeking to understand. In both cases, there's a complete failure of empathy. This means that your very best and strongest efforts come to nothing. You can have a soaring, imaginative concept of the creative possibilities here. You can have the will to be true to that concept and carry it through. You're not doing anything wrong. The problem is that these creative possibilities are just not available when things are blocked. Small concerns dominate. The adaptive response is not to strive constantly to rise to a higher level, but to focus your attention on the small details, the immediate, uninspiring reality, like the laundry, like bringing the plants in before they freeze out there in these frosty nights. So tiny details, attend to them, and we just wait, situations, energies change, times change, and sometimes it is not the time for big ideas to move into the world, and sometimes it is the time. Sometimes it's the moment for our notebooks and writing things down and dreaming big dreams on paper. So that's what I'm going to do this new moon time. I wish you well. I hope that you are feeling both inspired and resolved to attend to what needs to be attended to as we move through this new season. May you be well. May you know peace. And may all beings everywhere, may they be well, and may they know peace. Normally I say bye for now, right now, but I just want to let you know that you can reach out to me on my website, www.annhedley.com, ANNHEDLY.com. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye for now.